All right, welcome back to ABA exam review. We are reviewing our fourth BCBA practice exam. We're going to go through the next set of questions together and break them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. If you're looking for our practice exams, our study guides, and our combo pack, please check out behavioranalyststudy.com. When you pass your exam, let us know so we can include you in our Sunday shout out. Other than that, let's work hard, study hard, get to our questions. 121. After 2 months of an intense behavior plan, Jackie is now on task for most of her class time. Since the behavior plan stopped, the teacher has started paying more attention to other students now that Jackie is doing what she is supposed to be doing. What may be occurring here? What we're describing is a very common occurrence as behavior starts to improve in our learners. We developed this plan to target a decrease of the maladaptive behavior. It works, the behavior decreases. We then stop paying as much attention to that learner because the behavior is no longer maladaptive. Right? It's kind of a cycle. And in this case, this is what is occurring with this teacher. After Jackie is now, quote unquote, doing what she's supposed to be doing, the teacher has started paying more attention to other students and less to Jackie. So, what might actually be happening here? A, the teacher is implementing planned ignoring. Well, the key with planned ignoring is it's planned, right? It's intentionally ignoring behavior. Now, the teacher is not using planned ignoring as a strategy to change Jackie's behavior. She's just not paying as much attention anymore. It is not an actual planned intervention. B, the teacher is unintentionally putting Jackie's behavior on extinction. Yes, this might be occurring because now that Jackie is doing what she is supposed to be doing, the teacher should start reinforcing this behavior by just paying attention to other students and not acknowledging the good behavior and quote unquote catching them doing the right thing. She's unintentionally putting the behavior on extinction. This often happens as behavior improves and there are other things to worry about. C, the teacher is punishing Jackie's behavior. Well, there's no indication she's adding or removing anything. If anything, she's just withholding from the behavior, which is extinction. And then D, the teacher is continuously reinforcing Jackie's behavior. Well, we're pretty sure that's not occurring since she's not paying attention to Jackie. She can't be continuously reinforcing. So what's possibly occurring is an unintentional extinction procedure. Just because the behavior improves doesn't mean we stop paying attention to the behavior altogether. We now have to start reinforcing the right behavior. So what may be occurring? Well, unintentionally putting Jackie's behavior on extinction. 122. Each account executive at McNeil Law Firm gets a monthly bonus for completing 5 or more case briefs. It was announced that this month the requirement would now be 15 or more case briefs. This announcement led to the lowest number of bonuses ever given in a month. What likely happened? All right, good reminder. ABA is not just for autism. So on your exam, they're going to ask you a variety of questions from a variety of scenarios. All your job is to do is interpret the scenario from a behavior analytic perspective. So that being said, what is occurring here? Well, we know account executives have to complete 5 or more case briefs to get a bonus, but now they need to complete 15 or more case briefs. So strictly speaking, what has changed? Well, the reinforcement schedule. They have to engage in 5 responses or more to get reinforcement, or they have to now engage in 15 or more. So the response requirement has increased rather dramatically. As a result, they're no longer getting bonuses. So what do we think has happened here? A, many of the account executives quit when the requirements changed. Are there any indications? Is there any information saying account executives quit? No, there's no indication of that occurring, right? We don't want to add information that isn't there. B, the account executives experienced ratio strain. Okay, what is ratio strain? Well, ratio strain occurs when we fade out reinforcement or when the response requirement becomes too large too quickly. Adding 10 more case briefs to the requirement might have been too much. So, what happened was the responses started going down, and as a result, there was a lower number of bonuses. So, this is probably ratio strain. C, the bonuses were measured incorrectly. Well, we're not sure how the bonuses are being measured other than frequency, and it seems like the measurement hasn't changed. And then D, the announcement was misunderstood by several of the account executives. Well, this idea of misunderstanding is not behavior analytic in nature. We should not pick D. What is most likely occurring here is the employees are experiencing ratio strain. The response requirement for earning bonuses has increased dramatically. So now their responses have decreased, and as a result, there are a lower number of bonuses. 123. Clarice is taught how to imitate hand waving, high fives, and fist bumps in her kindergarten classroom. The teacher says Clarice will now be able to imitate even novel behaviors outside the classroom. As a behavior analyst, do you agree? Imitation question, right? They're asking about specifically if we teach specific imitations, will that just immediately teach the learner to imitate novel behaviors? In other words, is generalization going to start occurring because we taught them these three behaviors? Well, if we think about generalization of all behaviors, right, we never assume. We always train and plan for generalization, right? So just because we taught them to imitate three behaviors, does that necessarily mean now they'll be able to imitate even novel behaviors outside the classroom? A, yes, once imitation is taught, it will generalize to other settings. Well, that's just way too concrete and strong, right? Just because we taught imitation for a couple behaviors doesn't mean all of a sudden we're going to be able to generalize across all these other settings. B, yes, Clarice has already demonstrated generalized imitation. Has she? Where in the question does it indicate she demonstrated generalized imitation? Well, nowhere, right? So don't be fooled by these type of answer choices, which wants you to assume stuff that has no backing from the information given. C, no, we do not yet know if Clarice possesses generalized imitation skills. This is the best answer. We're just not sure yet, right? Until we see it happen, we don't know. D, no, because these are not socially valid behaviors to imitate. This seemed fine, right? Hand waving, high fives, fist bumps. It seems like a socially valid behavior to me. So our answer here is no. We do not yet know if Clarice possesses these generalized imitation skills. 124. You're brought in to consult with the Home for Juvenile Delinquents. Lately, there has been a massive spike in what the home considers disrespectful behavior. The manager tells you he is currently taking away television as a punishment. What might you ask as a behavior analyst to evaluate the punishment procedure? Okay, putting your shoes again in the behavior analyst role, you want to evaluate the punishment procedure. And that's the key here, okay? We are evaluating the punishment procedure. We know that the home considers this disrespectful behavior the problem, so they take away television as a punishment. We don't know anything about how the kids react. We don't know how the behavior changes. We don't know any of that information. So what are we going to ask to make sure, hey, is this actually a punishment? A, is television preferred by the residents of the home? Is that relevant as far as punishment goes? Not necessarily. I mean, ideally, if you were going to punish them, then I guess you would take away a preferred item. But in order for it to be punishing, what matters? Well, what matters is how it affects future behavior. B, has the disrespectful behavior changed at all since the procedure started? This is the question we want to know. You say you're taking away television as punishment. Well, has the behavior changed at all? Because if the behavior hasn't changed, it's not actually punishment. So if we want to evaluate the punishment procedure, we need to ask, well, has this behavior changed at all? C, what extinction procedure is the manager using? Well, one, we're not even sure if the manager knows what extinction is. Two, it's not relevant to the punishment procedure. And D, how do residents feel about the loss of television? Well, while that's important, if we're just evaluating the punishment procedure, feel isn't really going to help us. We need to systematically and empirically analyze, has the punishment, has the taken away of the television changed behavior at all? If it hasn't, it's not actually punishment. 125. A behavior analyst wants to use behavior momentum as part of an intervention to get Caleb to clean his room. Which of the following sequences best matches the behavior analyst's goal? Okay, we want to use behavior momentum. That is our goal. Okay, so behavior momentum. So we're using, in this case, a high probability request sequence, right? We're going to introduce some high probability request and follow up with a low probability request. So we need to pick the right sequence matching behavior momentum. In other words, what is the right high P, low P sequence? A, touch your nose, clap your hands, spell your name, clean your room. Now, what might be the issue here? Well, touch your nose, clap your hands are fine. They're high P. But then we say spell your name. That's a much more difficult response than touching nose and clapping hands, followed by the most difficult response, clean your room. When doing high P, low P sequences, you want to be very careful you aren't introducing two low probability requests in a row. B, touch your nose, clap your hands, stomp your feet, clean your room. Good. High P, low P, you want to introduce 2 to 5 high probability requests. So we have 3 high probability requests, followed by our low P request. B looks pretty good. Let's keep going. C, touch your nose, clap your hands, wait 5 seconds, clean your room. What you want to avoid with high P, low P sequences are pauses, right? We don't want to pause because we're trying to keep that momentum going. And then D, touch your nose, wait, clap your hands, wait, clean your room. Again, we don't want to wait. The whole idea is building up this momentum rapidly. We're not waiting in high P, low P. Okay, it's very quick. The best sequence to match our goal is going to be B. Touch your nose, clap your hands, stomp your feet, clean your room. 126, the day before Christmas, Dad wraps all of his son's presents in Superman wrapping paper and all of his daughter's presents in Barbie wrapping paper. This will most likely help the two children do what? All right, pretty straightforward question. But remember, not every question on the exam is going to be the hardest question in the world. So when we get these easier questions, we trust our preparation and we don't overthink it. The dad did what? He wrapped his son's presents in Superman paper, the daughter's presents in Barbie paper. And now, what is that going to help the children do? A, discriminate between presents. Well, sure. If one present is blue, one present is pink, that is going to help the kids discriminate between my presents and their presents. What about differentiate between presents? Well, remember, differentiate is just response differentiation. And differentiation refers to changing of the response. The responses aren't going to change, right? They're still going to grab their presents and open them. But now they're going to grab the right presents and open the right presents because they can discriminate between the stimuli. Functionally engage in interverbals. There's no indication we're teaching any sort of FCT here. And then D, comply with instructions for opening gifts. Again, none of that information is there, right? There's no information about functional communication, and there's no information about compliance. All we know is presents now look different. It's going to help the kids discriminate between each present. 127. If you're going to be using massed practice in a discrete trial teaching procedure, what are some ways you can avoid reinforcer satiation? Well, let's start with reinforcer satiation. What happens with reinforcer satiation? This typically occurs when we give a reinforcer too often, too much, and when the learner is just tired of the reinforcer, right? The motivation has gone down, okay? There's an abolishing operation. The value of the reinforcer has gone down. However you want to look at it, they are satiated on it. It is no longer as effective as it once was. And we want to avoid this, right? Especially for kids who have a limited repertoire of reinforcers. So if we're using mass practice and we're quickly introducing the same trial over and over and over again, well, we're probably delivering a lot of reinforcement. So what are some strategies we can do to avoid satiation? A, use a token system. Why is a token system good for this? Well, with a token system, we're not providing the reinforcer every time, right? We're giving tokens, which are then exchanged, okay? So there's a gap in between that possession of the reinforcer. B, restrict certain reinforcement outside of DTT. Yes, right? If we know for sure that one or two things function as reinforcement, we don't want them to have free access to it all the time, okay? If we restrict it, the value goes up again. C, fade reinforcement appropriately. Sure, if you're continuously reinforcing, okay, there's a big chance for satiation. As you fade out reinforcement, they get it less and less, maybe less satiation. So actually, all three of these are good strategies. We can use a token system, we can restrict certain reinforcement outside of DTT, or we can fade reinforcement appropriately. So how can we avoid reinforcer satiation? Well, D, all the above. 128, Blaine is sitting across from Tony. Blaine looks at Tony, says, what is 2 plus 4? Tony says 7. If Blaine is using discrete trial teaching and wants to use a visual prompt, how should he respond? All right, this is another DTT question, and this is an order question, right? What is the proper order for DTT? Remember, discrete trial training, has a clear beginning and end. It's very controlled. In this case, Blaine is using discrete trial teaching and wants to use a visual prompt. We already know Tony gave the wrong answer. How does Blaine respond? A, give corrective feedback and reintroduce the SD. Okay, that is the right order, but there's no prompt, so we can't pick A. B, give corrective feedback, give the visual prompt, and reintroduce the SD. Now, is a prompt an antecedent or a consequence? Well, it's an antecedent, so it's not going to be part of the corrective feedback. It's not going to follow the response, right? It's going to come before the response, but after the SD. C, give the visual prompt and reintroduce the SD. Visual prompt comes after the SD. And then D, give corrective feedback, reintroduce the SD, give the visual prompt. This is the right order, okay? Remember, we have our SD, our response, our feedback. We pause. We then reintroduce the SD and then prompt. D is the correct order. This is very important, okay? You're going to see technicians really mess up this order quite often, okay? They're going to prompt all over the place. We want to make sure that prompt occurs in the right spot. 129, you're a behavior analyst designing a discontinuous measurement procedure. You tell your technician to use play check recording using 15-second intervals. The technician tells you the behavior occurred for 12 seconds, 4 seconds, 14 seconds, 1 second, 15 seconds, and 5 seconds, respectively. How many responses should the technician record? Be very careful here. This question is tricky, all right? We are trying to identify how many responses our technician should record, and we're using a play check recording system. So we know play check is planned activity check. It's the group version of momentary time sampling, meaning at the end of each interval, we're going to look up, is the behavior occurring? Is it not? We know our intervals are 15 seconds each, but our technician says, well, the behavior occurred 12, 14, 1, 15, and 5 seconds. How does that help us? Does that help us at all if we're trying to use momentary time sampling? Well, not really, because we're not going to know when exactly those behaviors occurred. If the behavior occurred for 14 seconds, well, did it occur at the end of the interval? Yes or no? If the behavior occurred for 1 second, when did it occur? There's not enough information to let us know using a play check system how many responses our technician should record. So we can't record one instance. We can't record 5. We can't even record 0. We have no idea, right? Because we don't know when the behavior is occurring. And when you're using momentary time sampling or play check, knowing when that behavior is occurring is essential. So we cannot determine based on the information given is our answer. And then 130, it is the holiday season, and Dan knows that his in-laws are going to be arriving in town while he is at work. Dan decides to take the long way home when he leaves work. It takes him an extra 45 minutes to get home. Based on this information, what is the simplest hypothesis in regard to the function of Dan's behavior? Okay, pretty straightforward function question, right? Kind of a refresher checkup question. We can't neglect the easy stuff, all right? You have to know everything for the exam. Do not neglect what we consider the basics. So we know Dan knows his in-laws are going to be arriving in town. He then takes the long way home. It takes him an extra 45 minutes to get home. What do we think Dan is doing? Is Dan trying to obtain a tangible? Well, nowhere in the question do we mention any sort of tangible. Most likely he's trying to escape, or really avoid, right? He's trying to avoid going to see his in-laws so early. Is he trying to get attention? Well, if he was trying to get attention, he wouldn't be driving by himself an extra 45 minutes. And it isn't probably automatic sensory given the information we know, right? We know his in-laws are in town, and he's most likely trying to avoid them. So what is the simplest hypothesis? Well, Dan is engaging in escape/avoidance behavior. Great. Thank you for watching. Be sure to check out behavioranalyststudy.com for all of our study materials. Subscribe, join, let us know when you pass. Otherwise, work hard, study hard, and we'll see you soon.